Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Samantha Hollins here with me today. How you doing, Samantha?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. Is that a feather in your hair?
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a special show today. Special because this woman, Samantha Hollins, is doing something that there's not a million people doing it. She's a member of a very talented select group of people who decided to get into rock and roll. And so I want you to call a fan of rock and roll, older or younger, have them to like and follow America's Next Motivator TV show page and get here now because we're getting ready to learn her story. Samantha, what's that feather represent?
It represents the ancestors because I feel like I walk on their shoulders of everything that I do as a black female doing rock and roll.
Wow. Wow. Okay, that's deep. How does the feather represent the ancestors?
Spiritually speaking, they said that if you walking around and you see a feather on the ground, it lets you know that your ancestors are around.
Wow. Okay. I love it. I love it. And where are you from, Samantha?
I am from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, right?
Yeah, North Philly in the house.
North Philly now. Shout out to North Philly.
Yes.
What was it like for you growing up in North Philly?
I was a very shy introvert, stayed to myself. It was always action going on where I grew up. A lot of, unfortunately, violence and drug traffic. But I stayed in a house to myself in my room. I had a brother and a sister that was always interacting with their friends out doing that thing. So for me, I was pretty laid back and I soaked in the music that my mother was playing around the house.
What was she playing?
She was playing Mandrill, Earth, Wind, and Fire, The Doors, Jimi Hendrix, Santana, P Funk, stuff like that. Slide.
Oh, so you listened to some music growing up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And who was your favorite out of all of them?
Oh, I can't really say. I love them all for different reasons. I know because I play the guitar, people like to attach me to Jimi Hendrix the most. And but I didn't listen to him growing up. I learned about him later on in life.
Okay. You said that you have brothers and sisters and you all grew up in North Philly. You also said something that was very important, which was you pretty much took care of yourself inside the house. And for those people who might live in a dangerous neighborhood, it's important to know it's not where you live, but it's how you live.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So what was your family dynamics like when you were younger? I mean, I'm talking about 6 years old. What were your family dynamics like?
6 years old. Wow.
Yep.
6 years old. We moved around a lot at the beginning. So I lived in Atlanta for a quick second. I lived in Baltimore, but we ended back up in Philadelphia when my parents got divorced, living with my grandmother in her house in North Philly. From there,
Okay.
we stayed in North Philly, moving into our own place on 16th and Master. And that's where it all started for me.
Wow. So now, how old were you when you guys finally settled down in Philadelphia?
Oh, wow. Probably about eight.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
And what were your brothers doing? Were they listening to the music with you as well?
I used to kind of make my brother listen to music with me. He was more so into sports, but I always wanted to start this Jackson 5 type of band or something like that. So he would let me dress him up and he'll sing because he had a nice little voice. He was sing with me, but his heart was really into sports. So I had to kind of let him go and do his thing and focus on mine.
Right. Now, in school, were you pretty much laid back, introverted, didn't talk too much?
Yes, I was that girl in the back of the class, hoping they didn't call on me and didn't have too many friends. People liked me, but I was so quiet that I didn't really put myself out there.
Yeah. I've been in class with a lot of introverts, and I've always wanted to know what is going through her head. What were the types of things that you were thinking about back then?
You know what? That's probably what helped me develop the characters I play as an artist because I thought about everything that was going on around me, from the brothers fighting to the sisters cursing each other out to the other
Right.
one that's quiet sitting like me. I'm wondering what's she thinking about.
Right. So you were internalizing all of your surroundings.
Yes. Very amazing characters come out of Philadelphia, I tell you. And there's, believe it or not, even though it was North Philly, the hood, there was a lot of intelligent people that I was surrounded around growing up. It wasn't just guns and violence and drugs and all that stuff. It was people actually trying to better themselves to get out and do something better with their lives.
Mhm. One thing that I will also say about living in the so-called hood is that you actually got to be smart when you're living in the
Yes,
hood.
yes,
I
yes.
mean, it might not be what you consider academic smart, but there's a such thing as common sense and there's a such thing as wisdom. I mean, you've got to have a level of common sense and wisdom in order to actually survive in what you call the hood.
Oh, yeah. But they also had a lot of academic smarts too. I came from a school with great programs. It was always great programs.
Yeah, yeah. Shouts out to a lot of the teachers, mentors, and
Yeah,
just really special people who said, you know what, I'm not going to take my degree and go out to the suburbs, USA.
yes,
I'm gonna take my talents and my time and invest them right here with young people like you and I. I think that those are phenomenal
yes.
people, and I'm glad that you pointed that out.
And I got
Who
to be
who
one of
you
those
say?
people.
Huh? What do you say?
I said I got to be one of those people for a quick minute. I got to teach after school class, and I actually got to teach pre-K, and it taught me a lot about people in general.
Yeah. What was that like? What was that like?
Man, there's a lot of children that are suffering at home in
Hmm.
silence, and I
Hmm.
learned that there's a way to connect with them without yelling and without giving them that energy that they're used to at home when they come to school. It's psychological. You got to really connect with their hearts and their minds at the same time. And I use the
Yeah.
arts because that's what I know.
Right. Right. Wow. And you use the arts. I can tell that the arts played a major role in your blossoming into the star that you are today. When in your life did you start to apply this internal storm? You had organized chaos going on the inside because you were internalizing your environment. When did you start translating that into art?
All I remember is translating into art. I don't believe there was ever a time where I wasn't. I mean, when I was a little girl drawing all the time, I started off tracing cartoon characters. Next thing I know, I was drawing the cartoon characters. I started off playing piano by the ear. Next thing I know, I was playing the guitar by ear. So everything I was doing, oh, fashion design. I used to take my clothes apart and sew them back together to figure out how to sew. It was always something that I just did.
Right. Now, was your mother into the arts? Did you have aunties, grandmothers, uncles in the arts?
My grandmother sang in the church. My grandmother's
Okay.
background was always starting programs in the church and singing in the church. My grandmother, she actually spent a lot of time on the road with a lot of entertainers. So
Right.
her
Wow.
stories is what set fire inside of me as well.
Okay. Now, when you say that your mother was on the road with several different celebrities, what are some of the, well, whether celebrities or not, what were some of the acts that your mother was on the road with?
Well, I would say the main one was the Barkays because
Okay.
she was a part of their fan club and she became this little girl that wanted to go see all the shows, but they actually became friends at that point. And she was able to
Right.
get one of her boyfriends at the time to come to Philadelphia. Roy Smith.
I'm listening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a unique story, and I'm having a good time already. If you haven't done so, I want you to let somebody know that this is going to be a good conversation. Somebody that you know is already into music, have them come on over right here at America's Next Motivator. You all right out there, Samantha?
Yes, I am.
Okay, your device is freezing a little bit. Yep. Hello. Give us a second, y'all. As you know, this is live TV, and so sometimes we have technical difficulties because this is a live stream, and the pull is really big on these devices, so just gotta be a little bit patient. You all right?
Yes.
All right. All right. Yeah. So you said that your mother played with the Barclays. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Barclays was a singing group. Were they a singing group?
The Barcade is a funk band.
Oh, a funk band. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
And what did you think about Parliament and what was the other guy's name? George Clinton. Did you listen to those guys as well?
Oh, yes. I actually got to meet George Clinton. He came to one of my shows. I used to put together a festival, and he came out to support, and we got to do a tribute for George Clinton. He was front and center, rocking out with us. It was really awesome.
Right. Wow. And okay, I want to get to the rock and roll stuff. So let's get to it. When did you find your love for rock and roll?
I think it was always inside of me because of the music that my mother played. But the moment I picked up the guitar, that's when it transferred from my soul to stage shows and rocking out. I thought rock and roll was just stepping on the guitar pedal at the beginning, the distortion, and just playing as loud as possible. But over the years, I come to see that actually, like a gumbo of all music, just coming freely from your soul and from your heart. It's freedom about it that I really love.
You know, I'll tell you my rock and roll story. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Samantha Hollins is she's a guitarist, she's a musician, she is an artist, and she's great at what she does. Um, my rock and roll story is this. When I was younger, I never listened to rock and roll. I didn't think much of it. It was not something that was played in my household, and I didn't know anybody who was affiliated with rock and roll. And so it wasn't something that came up for me in conversations about music. But when I got older, I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio. Well, no, no. Before I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, there was this young man. His name was Angelo, and Angelo was a young man. We looked like we could have been cousins. And Angelo's special talent was that he played the guitar. So the fact that he was my friend made me accepting and open to what the guitar was all about. And I would sit there and he would talk to me about how he played and what he was learning. I would say, tell me some bands that you like. And so I could see if it's something that I might like too. Because you're from the same neighborhood as me, a similar neighborhood rather. I mean, you go through the same types of things I go through, and you love rock and roll. He gave me the names of a few bands, and as it turns out, I absolutely loved it. Rock and roll changed my life. It was an answer. There was an answer inside of rock and roll for all of the different feelings and emotions that I felt. What do you think about that? Yep. So it looks like she's shaking her head in agreement, and we'll wait for my signal to go through and for her to send one back. Just give me 1 second. Yes, Samantha, we're having a hard time hearing you. Ladies and gentlemen, while she is reestablishing the connection, I want to ask you guys a question. What do you think about my new hat? No, I'm not wearing it because I'm looking crazy. But I want to know, what do you guys think about these new hats? Huh? If you like them, I have them in black and I have them in red. Get in touch with me and we can talk about sending you one in the mail, all right? One for you, one for your significant other, your child, your friend, community member, whoever. And they're vintage. That's why they look ripped up a little bit. It's fire. It's fire. Let's see if we got Samantha back. Hello?
Yes.
All righty. And so, yeah, so
Yeah.
I was asking you about, what did you think about that story I told?
Oh, I thought that was it's a lot of people's story, to be honest, especially coming from where I come. A lot of people assume that is quote unquote not music for black folks when we actually started it. Sister
Mm,
Rosetta Tharpe, Chuck Berry, Little Richard. This music came from us, and you want to take it all the way back to Robert Johnson, Muddy Waters. This is the echo of my soul, so I belong here. It's not a music that I shouldn't be playing. This is a part of who I am.
wow. Okay. Okay. You mentioned some names. Who were they? You said Chuck Berry. You said Rosetta Thorpe.
Yes,
Okay. And who else?
Little Richard. You know, Little Richard. He lets everybody know that he's the architect of rock and roll. And then I said
Right.
Robert Johnson. You have Muddy Waters. You have, Bo Diddley. You have Lady Bo. Oh,
Okay.
the
Okay.
list can go on and on. It's so many.
Wow. So where was the disconnect between rock and roll and let's say our community? Like when did we lose it to the point where young kids out there today don't even know that it's something that we took part in originating?
It feels like when Jimi Hendrix passed away, when it kind of left for us.
Right.
It was an industry thing. It kind of shifted. And that's where all those funk bands came out. They were still playing music, playing live music, and they were still rocking out, but they labeled it differently.
Hmm.
I don't think it ever really left us because there's always been a community that was still doing it. Up to this day, there's a huge community that's still doing it. We just don't
That
get the notice that we deserve.
Wow. And see, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on this show is because we don't see enough beautiful women like you playing rock music. We just don't see it. And so now, people out there in the community, you can see this woman is a bona fide rocker. She's a rocker. Um, what did they start calling it? I mean, you said that it never left us. And to me, that's mind blowing because I would have never made that comment. But you said it never left us. Where
Yeah.
where have all the black rockers been all these years?
The underground, the underground in each big major city, there's an underground scene. And that's where the disconnect happens because the underground is not in the mainstream. You won't see it on TV, you won't hear it on the radio. But if you go seek and find, you shall see tons of us rocking out, even worldwide. I traveled to Botswana to be a part of a rock show over there. I traveled to London and rocked out with a sister at the Troubadour. So it's everywhere. We're everywhere rocking out. It's never been a thing where we were not doing it.
Wow. See, I'm learning right now because I didn't know that. And a lot of the time, especially in the inner cities, when you see, let's say, a black kid or African American, however you want to term it, getting into rock music or walking around with a guitar, people have thought, look at him or her trying to be like everybody else instead of being herself. But as you say, there have
Yes,
been black people in rock and roll all around the planet Earth all along.
yes,
That's huge. Now, I mean, are there
exactly.
names or festivals that we could know about in order to find this whole community of people?
Well, I just started a group on Face called the Culture Rock Griot, and it's also my new blog where I
Okay.
showcase black rock bands from all around the world because I felt like there's no space for that. Again, we're not played on the radio, we're not seen in music videos. You can see us. It's hard to say. It's very sporadic. There are festivals. There used to be Afro punk, but Afro punk is not so punk anymore. But there's a new thing called Punk Black that you can check out on Instagram. It's They do a lot of those. My sister in Detroit, the Cosmic Slop Festival. I mean, there's festivals that cater to this genre and this style of rock, which I call culture rock, all in the major cities.
Mm-hmm. And how does some of the traditional terms like alternative music and emo and punk convert into the Black rock community?
It really doesn't. It's like everyone calls us the Black rock community, but we don't call ourselves that. We're just doing rock and roll or rock. The subgenres like metal, punk, thrash metal, emo, whatever you want to call it, that's what we are. We're not calling ourselves Black rocker.
Right, right. What are the fundamental components of rock music?
For me, it starts with the blues. Everyone else, they might start somewhere else, but I had to start with the foundations of the blues because I want my music to sound authentic. And when I went out to LA to meet this beautiful lady by the name of Rosalie Brooks, who actually wrote and recorded with Jimi Hendrix, she made sure, and this was in 2002, she made sure that I wasn't just stepping on that distortion pedal and playing loud. She had her brother sit down with me, Uncle James, and go over these blues modes so you can make sure you're doing your rock and roll right.
Wow. And so you had mentors who taught you how to do this thing correctly.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I learned how to play by ear, but once again, I was just making noise. So my
Mhm.
mentor, when she came along, she really laid it out for me, and not just guitar wise, how to be a star on stage, how to dress, how to shine, how to be free, and adding little cover songs in there just to make sure you're pleasing your audience and making them feel good so they can connect because they don't know what your songs are yet. So she taught me about how to capture an audience.
Right. Now, are you able to talk to a young aspiring rock and roll artist that might be out there today who might be watching this show?
Hmm. First of all, I would say it's definitely not going to be easy. You have to have tough skin for this. This is not about fame and glory. You're not going to get that right away. You may never get that because, once again, it's not in the mainstream right now. But if you work hard and do it because of the love of it, you will find that core audience that will support you 100%. Buy your merch, your music, and whatever you put out there, because that's been my experience thus far. And you do get the respect of the elders, and that's very important in this game too, because those are the ones who are going to teach you how to do this right and not coddle you through this. Because a lot of people get online and post stuff or whatever, but they don't really know whether it's good or not. They haven't went to their elders. I always go to my elders to make sure how does it sound. You have to take that criticism. You have to be able to listen and learn. It allows you to grow so much. And you have to be patient and you really, really have to love what you do. And be
I
yourself.
think,
Definitely be
yeah,
yourself.
I think that is very powerful. That's very powerful that you encourage people to take their work to the elders. You know, a lot of the time in different
Yes.
industries, you come up with something, you work on it by yourself, and then you run out there and you give it to the world. And in this conversation, I'm realizing that we might be skipping a step if we're not presenting it to our elders first.
Yes.
And so, because that was your process, now I'm thinking rock music is about more than just making noise. It's about cultivating the culture of a community.
Yes.
Rock and roll is serious business.
It is.
And so when you talk about the elders of rock and roll that you can still access today, who are you talking about?
Man, Pure Hell from Philadelphia, one of the first punk rock bands to do the thing back in the 70s. I connected with Chipper from there through a friend that actually was somewhat of a mentor too, MJ. Then you
Okay.
have BC from Black Murder from Detroit. Again, my Rosalie Brooks from LA. There's a lot of folks. And my mother, because my mother knows good music.
Right.
She'll let me know. And she comes to my shows too.
Right. Hey, my mother comes to my shows too. Shout out to my mother out there. Shout out to my little sister out there. Shout out to each and every person. Yeah. Hey, and my little sister Sierra too. Can you tell my sisters Sierra and Alexis hello?
Hello, Sierra and Alexis.
Yeah. Yeah, that's from a real rock star, y'all. Hey, I really appreciate it. Now, one last question before we go to break. People say, oh no, you can't play that rock and roll music in my house. That's the devil's music. Can you talk to us about the positivity that can be found in rock music?
Yes. The first time I started really listening to heavy metal music, before even as a rocker, I'm thinking that's too much. But I started reviewing music for a website, and I started listening to the lyrics. I'm like, wow, this is really empowering. Not what people expect. You have to really listen, because I've been judged before too. I had someone tell me they couldn't come to my show because I was doing the devil's music. And I'm like, have you listened to my lyrics? My lyrics actually help change lives. When you listen to Lenny Kravitz's lyrics, his lyrics change lives. Jimi Hendrix, his lyrics change lives. You have to really listen to it. And you also have to listen to the underlying rhythm too, because a lot of those rhythms come from African beats all the way back in time. So it all connects with us. This is not just something to put out there and scare people and make people feel uncomfortable. It's actually supposed to make you feel something deep down in your core and change you and help you and rejuvenate you and free you.
Powerful. Powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been here from the beginning of this interview, you know that there's something here. I want you to stick around, because after the break, Samantha Hollins is going to have something special for us. We'll be right back. America's Next Motivator. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator. Hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network. And we're back. Samantha, how you feeling out there?
Feeling all right? Good. How are you right now?
I'm doing good. So if you were watching the commercials during the break, you might have seen some young people from foster care and just looking like, what's going on in this commercial? One thing about me is that I spent several years of my life in foster care, and part of the reason why this platform exists is to inspire youth who are growing up out of the foster care system. And so that's part of our mission. That's why we do this. Yeah. Yeah. And so when you talk about the positivity that exists in rock music, you know, that story I was telling you earlier relates to that, because rock and roll, my mother will tell you, was really a tool that I used for upliftment, for motivation. I mean, some of the lyrics were just like literally taking you from here and putting you here. So there's a lot of value in rock and roll for people out there. I think you all, each and everybody needs to give it a shot at one time or another. Um, so I want to ask you, would you be willing to play something for us today?
I sure will.
All right. Well, the floor is yours.
All right. The song I'm going to do is entitled "Ali of the Earth." I'm celebrating the 18th anniversary of this song and an EP that it comes with, which you can find on Reverb Nation for a short time. "Ali of the Earth." The time has come to follow the sign. The time has come to follow the The alley of life is calling to the beach. The alley of life is calling to the beach. Every cat is out for his home. Every dog is searching for his bone. Every rat is gonna sell his soul. Like a bug is gonna brush you home. I need Mother Earth to live my soul. I need Father God to bring me home as I stroll upon the alley of alley of the earth. Alley of the earth. Every ghetto has a police splash. Every suburban has their own trash. Every city has a city like a street code. It won't let you and I need Mother Earth to build my soul. I need Mother God to take me home as I stroll upon the alley of the alley of the earth. Alley of
Wow. That was phenomenal. You are big.
Thank you.
Sure. It sounds like it sounds like a song that I've heard before. And you have a voice that I feel like I've heard before as well. I mean, where have your songs been played in the past? Because I definitely feel like I've heard you before.
My songs have been played in New York. That was a huge place that I used to go to all the time back in the day, as well as LA. It's been played all over the world. Thank goodness.
Yeah. And I mean, what did you do? What did you do to cultivate your voice? I know that for rockers, you know, they have to work on their scream and they have to work on, you know, the vocals that they use to make a song really pop.
Mhm.
What did you do to work on your voice?
I was told when I first started singing that I have a very weird voice, and I don't know if I want to hear that type of voice. And I used to get very insecure about it at the beginning. But one day I started listening to African music, and I realized my voice is definitely home, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I started really
Mm-hmm.
focusing on my craft and just being me and developing, singing out, strumming my guitar and singing any chance I get. I'm a mother of four right now, so right now I don't get to practice sing as much as I would like to, but I sing to them, and I believe that helps keep my voice strong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the lyrics that I caught as you were performing was time has come to follow the sign. Can you unpack that
Oh,
for
you
us?
were
What are
listening.
you talking about?
I wrote this song 18 years ago. I was very young, but I felt like something was shifting around that time. It's like you see a lot going on in this world as we're still facing today, and you know when you're internally growing out of something and you're shifting into something better, regardless of what's going on in the world.
Yep. And so it's important for people to be able to follow the signs. Can you talk about a time when,
Exactly. Like the feather in my hair, the sign.
yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. So are you familiar with the concept of ma'at?
Yeah.
Did you say yes?
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say your face is looking like heck yeah. Can you tell the people about the concept of ma'at?
Yes.
Yes. Can you tell the people about ma'at? What is ma'at?
A lot of goddess energy.
Mhm. A lot of goddess energy. You know, so when you say follow the
Yes.
signs and this woman has a feather in her hat, that's a sign. When you follow the sign, then you will find ma'at. For all our listeners and viewers out there, I want you to do a little bit of research and look up ma'at. Find out what it means. Come back on our next episode and drop a comment out there. I want to see who's doing the work. So yeah, follow the signs. That's one of the biggest keys in life that there is to follow the signs. You know, I think rock and roll is a sign that you have a greater consciousness that you need to tap into. The whole genre is a sign.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, rock and roll is like it's like the instrument of your chakras, if you will, the music of your
Yes. I love
chakras.
it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So talk to me about what do you think is the superpower of the guitar? What does the guitar do that other instruments just can't get to?
Mm. It's especially with the acoustic guitar. When you're playing it, you feel the vibration. When I play the electric guitar, I feel it too. But something about the acoustic guitar, it's like you can feel it all through you. It raises you to higher conscious while you're playing. Sometimes I don't even have a voice, and I start playing. and all of a sudden this voice comes. Like, I didn't even know that my voice was ready for today.
Right.
But something those strings do, it just vibrates in you. You can feel it, and it raises you to a higher. And it actually, if you've ever watched rock art, especially guitars, how they dance around, they jump around, a lot of it is contrived for us who are true to who we are. It's just something that moves us and shapes us, lifts us while we're on stage from that vibration.
Right. So would you say that the sounds of the guitar could raise somebody's consciousness?
For me, it does. I don't know if everyone feels that, but that's what I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like the world needs a little bit of rock and roll right now. Would you say that?
Yes.
Um, Samantha, where do you think that rock and roll is going for people like yourself? What's next in rock and roll?
What's next is the underground finally coming to the foreground.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be stuck for a long time. It has grown. It has not done anything new, but there's a lot of people doing some amazing things with it right now that's extremely necessary these times right now. So I feel like it's going to finally come to the foreground. I see it. I can feel it.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the combination of rock music and rap music that we're seeing these days?
It depends who's doing it. I love it. I don't like when it's contrived. I like when it's coming from a natural place because you can
Mm-hmm.
feel that everything that it is to tell a story and to actually again uplift people. It's not about trying to be like someone who's done it before, and that's my issue with most of those. They sound like something that's been done before from the 90s up to this point, but there's a lot of new bands out there doing that, and it's coming from a true artist place. It's very authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And poetry
Um,
to rock, I love it too, very authentic.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of poetry in rap music, and there's also a lot of poetry in rock music.
Yes.
And so, in essence, you could say rock is the parent of rap music. In a sense, could you say that?
Yeah, if you take it all the way back to the blues, because that's what they did. They was rapping.
Okay.
They was telling their stories.
Right. Okay. Wow. All right. Do you have any albums or projects coming up in the future?
I am so bad with the recording process. I'm more of a performing artist, but I am being pushed to finally
Mhm,
start releasing my music on the social media networks, all the
mhm.
outlets. I'm an album type of person still. I'm stuck in the vintage days, but I, I know that people want it, so I have to put it out there. So yes, that's coming. But anyone who wants to get to know who I am prior to this new music that will be coming out, go to reverbnation.com/ghetto songbird. It's going to be there probably another month or two if you want to hear it for free, because I'm about to put all that stuff on Spotify and all those type of places.
Okay. And your name is Ghetto Songbird. What was the culmination of that name? How did you come up with that?
Ghetto songbird. I always say that name chose me. I was in my room one day on North 16th Street as a teenager listening to music. Started doing talent shows, and I kept searching for the perfect name. I have to have a stage name. When I
Mhm.
stopped thinking about it, one day I heard this bird outside my window singing. I was like, ghetto songbird. That ghetto songbird sounds so beautiful. And I want people to look at me like that when I do my art, that beautiful things do come out of the ghetto
Wow. Wow.
and that they can
Wow.
see that in themselves as well.
Mm-hmm. What role do you see the arts playing in advancing young people to a brighter future?
I see it allowing young people to really open parts of their mind that has been closed, because the arts really opens up your mind in different places you didn't even know that can exist. For me, I didn't know that I was good at math until I started doing the arts. And when I mean the arts, I'm not meaning just playing the guitar, just being creative at all times. Math was one of my hardest subjects, but it seemed like the more I would delve into the arts, the more that side of my brain started opening up and math became easy. I couldn't believe it. I was like, all of a sudden, I can do this.
Wow.
And I think it all plays on a child's confidence as well. It gives you confidence and discipline.
Yep. That's right. That's right. What grade were you in when you realized that arts were helping you in math?
Ah, wow, great. I was in 11th grade. I mean, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, it's always been with me, but the 11th grade, someone else pointed it out. I had an English teacher who read one of my poems, and she kept raving about how great it was. And I'm thinking it's just something that I normally do. When she pointed that out to me, I thought, wow, well, maybe I have something here. And I started writing more, because writing was my first passion, and it still is my passion. I just got back to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, writing is a big piece of human communications clear across the board. And I think the more we write, the better relationships we'll be able to have. You know. But right now, if I can, I just want to take a stroll down memory lane a little bit. What were some of the coolest shows that you've ever done?
Ooh, wow. Mm. The Bitter End in New York. I love the Bitter End. It's an intimate venue. It's legendary. The sound is wonderful. Something about when we get in that room, my band, my rock exploitation band, and I give a shout out to Chris Nelson, who plays keys, and my husband Ronan, who plays the drums. When we get in that room and they start playing the drums and that rhythm start going, the show just always just goes somewhere that I didn't even know that it can go. It
Right.
allows the way it shines on you, the sound. They just got it so strong, it pumps inside of you. I love that space. I also love the Whiskey a Go Go in LA. It's a huge
Okay.
stage, and the lighting once again in the sound. Spaces like that.
What does it do to your body, to your spirit and soul when you rock out on stage and when you complete a show? What does that make you feel like?
For me, I'm a performer. I like to feel, to dance. I love to showmanship. I love all that, and so does my bandmates. So it's almost like a workout for us. When we get done, we're like, we're done, because we get so lost in the show. It feels like out of body experience. You're not even there, because we have our rehearsals of how it's supposed to be. But once we get on stage, we do what we're supposed to, but we also let loose and we allow ourselves to go where we need to. And once we come back down to earth, once the show is over, it's like I need to go backstage or to the side to really come back to myself, because I've given it all and left it all on the stage.
Mm, wow. And basically what I hear you saying then is that the practice of rock and roll is a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual thing.
Yes,
And when people
very
say,
much. And I think that's how that whole thing got connected to it. The whole devil's music thing got connected to it.
mm, talk about that.
It's almost like a possession in a sense, but it's not the evil type of possession. It's a spiritual awakening.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And so when we talk about being high off life, this is an art form that enables you to know what that really means.
Yes.
Yeah. What I mean, how could we get you to do a live show after the COVID 19 pandemic is over? What would somebody have to do to get you to come and perform at a venue? How can we get in touch with you?
I'm my own manager, so all you have to do is email me at ghettosonger@yahoo.com. And I
Okay,
also answer my DMs on social media.
right. That's huge. I mean, a lot of the time when you see somebody on social media or you see somebody that you like, they're popular. Those people they don't always respond back to you, and it's like, listen, I really like you, but you're not responding to my direct messages. And so to hear you say that you actually
Mm.
respond to people that's important. Talk about the value of humility as you have successes in life.
Oh, wow. I feel like there are so many levels of humility. You have to be humble, man. You can't let this stuff go to your head because a moment is a moment. That's how I look at it. I maybe one of the largest venues in the land and did my thing. We feeling hype, we feeling. You also have that next show that can knock you right off of your toes if you don't do things the way you need to do, and if you let it go to your head. So I always let go once I do a performance or once I do something what they would call grand or whatever. I let it
Mhm.
go and move on to the next because I don't ever want to be that person that people feel like they can't deal with, they don't want to talk to, they don't want to work with, they can't connect to. I want to be able to connect with people because that's a huge part of doing this too. It's not about self gratitude only, it's about and receiving that energy. Without the people that watch us, buy the tickets, buy the music, we will not be able to have that, especially those who have those luxury lives from it.
Right, right. And so, what do you do to stay grounded? Can you give us some tips?
I come home from the show. I have to chase down my 3-year-old. I have to help my daughter do her hair. I have to wash the dishes. Oops, somebody spilled something. I have to clean that up. Oh no. I
Yeah.
mean, coming home to that keeps me grounded. My
Mhm.
children know me as Samantha or Mama. I mean,
Yeah.
they've been doing their homework, going online, finding out what I really do, and it's blowing their minds the more they learn. And they've been to my shows, so now they get an idea. But when we get home, everything is just mom.
Absolutely. What is? I have three questions for you, and I need you to answer them quickly because we're rounding third base here. What is
Okay,
survival to you?
survival is being aware, educated, and grounded.
What is success to you?
Success is whatever you believe it is to you.
Okay. And what is greatness to you?
Greatness is allowing who you are to expand to its highest heights, like Chadwick Boseman did.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Talk to me about what the Black Panther movie meant to you.
Wow. See, my husband is into comic books. He schooled me about Black Panther way before the movie, and I still really didn't understand it until I saw it on screen with my family. It meant pride, pride. Him as a person individually, Chadwick. It means living to your fullest, doing whatever you have on your heart, whether you succeed or fulfill in the eyes of society. Just do it.
Just do it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Samantha Hollins today, and we got a lot more than just music and music history from you today. You really gave us a master class today on rock and roll. Black people in rock and roll, what it has been, and the way it can impact the world in the future. I want to let you know, I've seen your work, I hear you, and I respect your journey. I want to let you know that I appreciate your art. I'm going to be recommending it to people in the future. I'm going to be digging in, seeing what else you got out there. And I want to let you and I want to let the world know that here on this platform, you are America's next motivator.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for stopping by, all right?
Much respect. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for sticking in there with us. If you can tune out